And everybody's here? Is everybody online, or are they both here? Is Mike here?
Matt? Matt? You're able
Is
to
Mike
change the
there?
title to after closed? I did. Okay.
I'm looking to see if Mike Ditavitas is there. I bet he's trying to get back in under the other one.
He's there. He's there.
Okay. We ready? Let me know. I'd like to bring this open session back to order. Business arising from closed session. So I'll get the clerk to put these up.
Okay, so for item 17.2, for business arising under closed session, confidential information respecting site alteration permits. That confidential update dated August 13th, 2024, respecting site alteration permits be received.
Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Longo and Councillor Hanley. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
Confidential update dated August 13th, 2024, respecting Superior Court of Justice application be received and that staff proceed as directed in closed session.
Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Decker, Councillor Hanley. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
Confidential update dated August 13th, 2024, respecting zoning bylaw nonconformance be received and that staff proceed as directed in closed session.
Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor O'Hara and Councillor D'Angelo. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
A confidential update dated August 13th, 2024, respecting Kiefer Mansion property be received and that staff proceed as directed in closed session.
Can I get a mover and seconder for this one? Councillor Decker and Councillor O'Hara. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
And confidential update dated August 13th, 2024, respecting St. David's Road project update be received and that staff proceed as directed in closed session.
Can I get a mover and a seconder for this one? Councillor Hanley and Councillor DeRose. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, so that takes care of that. Now we're going to move on to delegations. As approved during the adoption of the agenda, we will not receive delegations on PWCS 79-2024 site alteration permit. What?
No. We will now receive, yeah.
I mean, we will now receive, yes, sorry. we will not receive, we will now receive site alteration permits 13030 Lundy's Lane after the delegation. And after the delegations, council will consider the report. Up first, respecting PWCS 79-2024, site alteration permit 13030 Lundy's Lane. I'll call on Rob Malik, Project Manager, MTE Consultants, Inc., for his delegation respecting PWCS 79-2024 site alteration permit 13030 Lundy's Lane. And Rob, you have up to 10 minutes.
My name is Rob Miller. I'm a professional engineer and civil engineering consultant engaged every day across the Sorry, do I need to start over?
No?
Okay, thank you. Engaged to carry out the grading and erosion and sedimentation control design for the site alteration permit application that's before council today. We've reviewed the staff report and note that staff has recommended that council approve the application, and of course we support this recommendation. As you know, Rodanko has made a separate application for approval of a draft plan of subdivision on this property that, if approved by council, would allow development of the property. That's not why we're here today, and that application will be brought forward for council consideration at a later date. We are far enough along in the development design process to know that the grading works will be required on site, including raising the grade of much of the site to provide proper cover on future sewers and to ensure that stormwater drainage is directed in appropriate directions. Today's application for site alteration permit, if approved, will allow Rodanko to begin importing clean fill, which is necessary to prepare the site for the future development. Approval of the site alt permit in no way prejudices council's ability to approve or deny the subdivision application later. Final grading and servicing design for the subdivision will be completed in due course, and through those design works, the final quantity of fill needed will be refined. Based on preliminary design we've completed to date, we estimate that import of between 150 and 170,000 cubic meters of fill is needed. While that sounds like a lot of fill, and well, it is a lot of fill, please bear in mind that it's a big site. On average, the site needs to be raised about 2 feet. Clean, suitable fill is hard to come by, certainly in the quantity that the site needs. We have one fill source confirmed as noted on the application, and will require others. Now, when fill becomes available from other sources from time to time, there's often a lineup of people wanting that fill, and it's necessary to act quickly. Rodanko needs to be ready to receive fill as it becomes available, or risk losing the opportunity. If fill can't be received as it becomes available from other sites, then the alternative is to buy gravel or other fill at the last minute at a significant cost premium. Earthworks is usually one of the most expensive aspects of development, and any premium paid for last minute fill, of course, gets added onto the price of homes. Ontario is already in a housing supply and attainability crisis, and adding higher fill costs will only make this worse. Hence this application. Fill placement on the site will be done in stages as fill becomes available from other sources. And as those sources become available, proper erosion and sedimentation control measures will be installed, and fill will be placed in strategic areas to avoid disturbing the entire site at one time. Pre-grading work such as this are often done before development approvals are in place. Preparing the site for future development in this way and in this sequence is both normal and appropriate. In closing, I'd like to reiterate that we agree with the staff recommendation for approval of this application, and I would be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Rob, and I'll open the floor from council if there's any question from council. Seeing none, Rob, thank you very much for your presentation. What? Is there?
Sorry, I saw Councillor DeVitis.
Oh, did you have a question? Go ahead, Councillor DeVitis.
Oh, yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for coming in today. So 150 to 170 cubic meters of clean fill, how long will it take to move something like that?
Through the mayor, it entirely depends where it's coming from and really how many trucks are involved. Months, probably, most probably. I mean, and again, because we don't have all the fill from one source, I don't imagine it's going to happen consecutively. It will start and stop as fill sources become available and then are exhausted.
So it's important to start right away to get this going so you don't delay.
Through the mayor, yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question regarding the fill. When you get the fill onto the property, is it going to be stockpiled in one location or spread out a little bit? And will that be managed over time so that you don't have large quantity of weeds and it becomes an eyesore or a burden to any neighboring properties?
Through the mayor, we're not completely sure on the strategy yet. Ideally, we'll bring it into the site, place it, and pack it once to avoid double handling the material. It's, if you place it in a stockpile and then you have to pick it up later and move it, it costs more money to do the work twice. So ideally, we'd place it and pack it once and be done with it, put some topsoil back down and seed it so that it grows and is stable. There's no more sediment coming off of it because the vegetation's holding it there. However, depending how much fill becomes available at a time and how quickly it needs to come into the site, it may be necessary to stockpile some.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, I want to thank you for your presentation. Again,
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. And now I'll call on Calvin Lance, partner, Stikeman Elliott LLP, for his delegation respecting PWCS 79-2024 site alteration permit 13030 Lundy's Lane. And Calvin, you have 10 minutes.
Great. Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. My name's Calvin Lance, and I'm here representing Rudenko Hospitality Corporation on this item. I'm also representing Parkbridge Lifestyle Communities, Inc. Now, my client, Rudenko, is pleased with the staff report, the recommendations, and we have reviewed the report, and we reviewed the recommended site alteration terms and conditions, and we're satisfied. I'm also here to advise that we have submitted a letter to council earlier this week indicating our support of staff's recommendations. And I would ask that council approve the site alteration permit and adopt the recommendations of staff. Now, as you've just heard, the site alteration permit is to facilitate Rudenko receiving fill in a timely way and in a cost-efficient way to allow them to advance the site to prepare for the much-needed housing. Now, this ask is not unusual, and this council has rightfully approved Parkbridge's site alteration permit this year. Now, you will know from reviewing the staff report on the public record that there was a public meeting relating to the site alteration permit on July 17th, during which time no concerns were expressed by anyone to staff. Now, normally, in this circumstance where you've got full support of staff and no opposition or concerns being raised on the public record by anyone, I would end my presentation there and just ask that staff's recommendation be adopted. But as I'm sure all of you know, we have learned that a binder was prepared and delivered to the councilors. And we obtained a copy of the binder today after many inquiries, and we've had a chance to look at it, albeit briefly, because there's a number of documents there. The client was not notified that anyone was attempting to interfere with our client obtaining a site alteration permit. And you'll recall that Rolling Meadows had sent in letters earlier this year in an attempt to delay the approval of the site alteration permit for Parkbridge. And notwithstanding that, this council approved the Parkbridge site alteration permit and did so rightfully. Staff had recommended that the Parkbridge site alteration permit be approved. And so I want to be very clear about a few things. There is no reason for this council to delay the approval of the Parkbridge, approval of the Rudenko site alteration permit. If there were any concerns about prematurity, staff would have highlighted that in their report, and they have not. It's also important to recognize that the regulatory framework for this application for a site alteration permit comes under the Municipal Act and not the Planning Act. And the site alteration permit is to be issued when the requirements are met. And we have no indication here on the record that the requirements are not met. And there's also no need to impose a condition for cost sharing. And I saw a reference to it in the binder. Because cost sharing is dealt with under the plan of subdivision application. Under the plan of subdivision application, which is under the Planning Act, a different piece of legislation. And so I think I'm just going to add at this point, there is no evidence that either Parkbridge or Rodanko is not interested or willing to pay their fair share of the costs or enter into a cost-sharing agreement. Parkbridge is already subject to condition 15 in their draft plan conditions, excuse me. And the communications that have taken place to date among the landowners indicates that those conversations are still carrying on. And in fact, there was a letter delivered to Rolling Meadows just last week indicating that they're willing and interested, sitting down, having a meeting, and bringing in a third party to referee the cost sharing. Rolling Meadows has yet to provide us a draft cost sharing agreement. Now, the site alteration permit being sought here is going to be subject to the conditions that staff recommended. Cost sharing cannot be added as a condition. The empowering legislation under the Municipal Act does not speak to cost sharing. The city's own bylaw that speaks to site alteration permits sets out what may be included as a condition of a site alteration permit. Cost sharing is not one of those items. And so, if council decides to include cost sharing as a condition on the site alteration permit, not only is it unnecessary because it's being dealt with as part of the subdivision conditions under the Planning Act, but arguably it's outside of council's jurisdiction, given the wording of the Municipal Act and the site alteration bylaw of this city. But I would also caution council that if you impose such a condition, it may be seen as evidence, if the decision is challenged, that this is another attempt to assist a private landowner in their business negotiations with the neighbor. Now, in conclusion, I wish to encourage council not to be distracted by the negotiations between landowners that relate squarely on application processes under the Planning Act. We're here tonight to talk about a site alteration permit under the Municipal Act, and your staff have recommended approval of it. And I'm here to ask you that you adopt the recommendations of staff. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Calvin, and is there any questions from council? Seeing none, Calvin, thank you for coming to council and presenting.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, councillors.
Okay, in accordance with our procedural bylaw, Report 79/2024 respecting site alteration permit 13030 Lundy's Lane will be dealt with immediately after the delegations which have taken place. So I'll put PWCS 79/2024 respecting site alteration permit 13030 Lundy's Lane on the floor. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Longo's moving it, Councillor DeRosa's seconding it. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Hanlon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in regards from here through staff, since it was brought up in regards to cost sharing agreement, council has already previously passed, as we know, the Park Ridge site alteration permit. Now Rodanko's in front of us. Further past the site remediation, where it was brought up to us under subsection 15. Would this mean that before a plan of subdivision is approved, a cost sharing agreement must be in place?
I'll ask Jason to answer that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the draft approval for the subdivision has not come before council, but a cost-sharing agreement is definitely a condition that could be added as a condition of draft plan of subdivision when it comes to council for consideration.
I only asked that, Mr. Mayor, if I could through you, because we know that that's already in place for one of the proponents. So I would suggest that it's probably going to be in place for the other proponent too, I would think, through you, the appropriate staff member.
Jason, that would be, do you want to comment on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have enough information in front of me to say definitively, but it is definitely something that would be looked at by staff to make sure if it's appropriate, then it would be added as a condition.
Thank you. Thank you, Thanks, Jason. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No
Any
more
further
further questions.
Thank you, Councillor Hanley. Any further questions? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Can we do that? Save having another meeting.
So we do have here, we've changed, that was what was on the floor, so I've got the west restrictions, so we can make clear.
Okay. That's
58 will be in accordance with, I can say it.
okay.
In accordance with.
Okay, so the clerk has made the necessary changes so that we can pass bylaw Bill 3 on the parking. And do you want to comment on that before I put all the bills forward?
Yeah, just to clarify, right,
We
so.
don't have to call another meeting.
So report PWCS 87, 2024, that was the parking restrictions that were proposed on Sullivan, Pamela, and Lawrence. There was an amendment to the original motion on the floor that was passed. Also passed within that amended motion was that the Schedule B of the traffic bylaw be amended to reflect the new restrictions. I believe that those restrictions are properly elaborated in the past amended motion. So I believe that, assuming council is okay, we can go ahead and make those changes to the bylaw.
Okay, that way we don't have to call another meeting. Okay, so can I get a mover and a seconder for bills 56-2024 through 62-2024? Can I get a mover and a seconder? I got Councillor O'Hare and Councillor Decker. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. This being no further business, this meeting is hereby adjourned at 10:25 p.m. And I want to thank council for a great meeting and some good discussion.